It's like, who are a couple players that need to make a step up this upcoming season for the Carolina Panthers? Again, not named Bryce Young. Bryce Young, again, I'll say that one speaks for itself. Okay? We can have those conversations. You never know. We might have one later on this week. But not named Bryce Young, because Bryce Young needs to show that he can do what he did at the end of the last season, like the last 6-7 weeks or so. Can you do that for a full 17 games? That's something that's got to be proven, right? But players that do need to elevate their play. Jadeveon Sanders, by all accounts of what I heard from training camp and from everyone else, I know Paul Ihander on Next Up on 99.9 The Fan in Raleigh mentioned it this morning that apparently he's slimmed down by about 10 pounds. Got slimmed down a little bit, feeling a little bit more fit, feeling a little bit more quicker. Guess what? Jadeveon Sanders, you're going to be tight end 1 going into this season. You're going to be tight end 1. Especially with Tommy Tremble. Even when Tommy Tremble comes back, he's not going to be 100% because Tommy Tremble, unfortunately, is going to be rehabilitating from a back surgery as opposed to training to get ready for a season. There's a difference between the two. Training and rehab are different things. Rehabbing to be able to play is different than training to perform and be fit. So Jadeveon Sanders, in my eyes, is a player that if Carolina can have someone that at his size and his athleticism that could be a pass-catching threat between the hash marks for Bryce Young, only helps McMillan, only helps Legette, only helps Coker. Thielen doesn't need help. He's already good. But it's going to be, if McMillan is drawing attention on the outside, Dave Canales said he's playing our X receiver position. If he's drawing attention on the outside, and if you have the speed and the physical abilities that we know Xavier Legette to have, we just need to actually see it in a game. There's no reason why that Jadeveon Sanders can't be a threat in the middle of the field for Bryce Young. There's no reason why it can't be. Actually, go back to the game where he got hurt against Kansas City. I was there at Bank of America Stadium, sitting there in the press box, and he was making some awesome plays. Jadeveon Sanders was. And then unfortunately, late in the first half, he had that neck injury, just kind of got flipped up, landed on his head, neck injury, missed a few weeks, and really just wasn't the same after that. But if that physical, athletic, big tight end that we've seen excel in the NFL, he has to be that for this team. He has to be that now, especially now. And also, continue to improve and up your blocking. Because as a tight end, you're asked to do both. But that's a player who, it might not be the sexy name to talk about, because obviously the probably the biggest one that needs to make a leap from last year was his rookie classmate, Xavier Legette. Someone that you mentioned in the blind ranking there, Victoria. I mean, Legette's got you're a first-round pick. Well, it's just pick 32. I don't care. First round is first round. Now, obviously, top 10 is different than pick 32, but you're pick 32. Even at the end of the first round, you still got to be expected to perform better than just 400-plus yards this past season receiving. Like, there's got to be a leap in his game. And there should be, especially because of everyone else that's been added on the team offensively. With McMillan coming in, they got another capable running back to go along with Chuba Hubbard. They added Mitchell Evans as a tight end. Things should open up for you even more if you're Xavier Legette. You have to take advantage of it. Staying healthy, catching the ball consistently. That's on him. That's on him. Can't be like we had in the Saints game last year. A lot of people like to bring up the Philadelphia Eagles game, laying out for that pass, which probably would have tied the game at 22 apiece. They're late in the fourth quarter against the Philadelphia Eagles. Who knows what happens on a PAT? But he doesn't come up with that catch. But also, you go back to the Saints game at home where the Carolina Panthers won by 1 at Bank of America. Legette literally had a ball in his hands just get ripped out of his hands by a backup corner. Just had the ball ripped out of his hands for an interception. on a perfectly thrown ball by Bryce Young. Those kinds of things can't happen this season. They just can't. They simply can't if this team wants to get to where it wants to be. So those are two names on the offensive side of things, Victoria. Now let's shift things over to the defense. Let's not forget that defense sucked last year.
It did.
Call it what it was. The defense stunk. It was historically bad.
And it used to be the only thing that saved us.
It wasn't that long ago.
Mm-mm.
It wasn't that long. I know I'm harsh with that criticism, but guess what? That's earned. When you have over 3,000 yards rushing allowed on the season, over 170 yards rushing allowed per game this past year, you give up over 31 points per game. It was an historically bad defense. Now, again, there's a ton of injuries last year. I don't think there's a lot of depth to begin with, and then you add injuries on top of that, it all just compounded. It all compounded. But a player I think that needs to elevate, I even said it going into last year, is Derrick Brown. Derrick Brown is one of the best run-stopping interior defensive linemen in the entire NFL. You don't get 100 tackles in a season by accident. What can he do to impact the game on passing downs? That's what I want to see. We saw A'Shawn Robinson last year tied for the Panthers' lead in sacks with 5.5 as an interior defensive lineman. Can Derrick Brown get to that point? 5.5, 6. Now he's coming off the knee injury, had the meniscus tear in week 1 last year against the New Orleans Saints. Had the knee operation, so he's still recovering. He's about 8 months removed from that. So still recovering, still getting back. But can he elevate his play to where he can impact the game on passing downs? Because this team, this Panthers defense, Victoria, here's a couple names for you. Mario Addison, Julius Peppers.
Yep.
Remember those guys?
I do.
In 2017, each of those guys had 11 sacks in 2017. Since then, so we're talking 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Since then, the Panthers have only had 2 players reach double-digit sacks.
See, that's not good.
Yeah. We're
Not
talking
at all.
2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. 7 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
They've had a player reach double-digit sacks twice.
And I wonder if those were seasons that they were 500 or above.
It was Hassan Reddick back in 2021, and it was Brian Burns in 2022. They weren't.
No.
They weren't. Because they haven't had a winning season in
Forever.
however long. So, no, they weren't. That's it. Those guys aren't even on your team anymore.
Mm-mm.
Last year, your team, one of the worst in the NFL when it comes to sack percentage. So sack percentage, I don't look at total sacks, I look at sack percentage. So we're looking at dropbacks versus actual sacks. So again, what's that percentage? One of the worst in the NFL again for the second straight year. It was actually even a worse percentage in 2023 when you have Brian Burns and Derrick Brown both playing and Frankie Louvu.
Not good.
And it was, believe it or not, actually by a 10th of a percentage better last year, which is really weird to say. So that's the reason why I put it on Derrick Brown. Can you impact the game from a pass rushing standpoint? Even to the point where you may not get sacks, but if you force the quarterback, you get pressure on the quarterback to the point where they have to move off their spot, and then one of your edge rushers can chase them down. Whether that's Nick Scorton or Princely Umamielen, Pat Jones, and the next guy that I'm going to mention, DJ Wanham.
Yeah.
DJ Wanham was one of your quote-unquote big free agent signings going into the 2024 season. You knew he was coming off of a quad injury. Unfortunately, not only rehab from the quad injury, but also was dealing with he dealt with a blood clot issue last year. So that's one of the reasons why it took him so long to actually get on the field. Only played in 8 games last year. But there was a little bit of a noticeable difference last year when DJ Wanham was on the field. 8 games last year, 4 sacks. If he does play a full 17, maybe he misses a game, let's say 16 games, can he get to double digits? Is it Pat Jones that they signed? Those two guys together, they both came from Minnesota. Who can get to the quarterback? That's a big-time question. It's hard to ask the two rookies that you took on day 2 to just step in right away. Again, day 2 picks to come in and be like, yeah, each of you guys both get us 11 sacks this year, just like Julius Peppers and Mario Addison did 2 years ago. That's a lot to ask of a rookie. Those are guys that need to step up this year for the Panthers.